What do you keep? What in your life and experiences, but memories do you store up, hold on to, safeguard? That word, keep, here in the gospel has more connotation than just holding on to possession of something. It's also translated as treasuring. So like keeping a trophy, or keeping something in a safe deposit box, or keeping an eye on someone you love. There's value in this idea of keeping, of treasuring. And there are a lot of memories that we kind of keep or hold on to, whether we like it or not. Things we wish we could forget, but cannot. That's kind of a part of trauma. But this is not what we mean by treasuring an experience and a memory. And Mary does this. She treasures these things in her heart and goes further by reflecting on these moments, these acts of God. She doesn't just remember. She considers, ponders, mulls them over as she treasures them. And the way human memory works sheds light on the power of this practice. We sometimes think of memory as if it were a journal or a bit of data on a hard drive. It sits there doing nothing until we pull it out, look at it, and then put it back. But human memory is more organic and alive than that. Brain science shows us that when we remember something, we aren't just recalling that event. We're also, in a sense, recalling every other time we remembered it. There's this ongoing link in our minds. And then our brains reprocess those memories, sometimes adjusting information, diving deeper, increasing in understanding. There's an ongoing and living relationship between the past we remember and the present through that memory process. And so every time Mary stops to ponder these events, she was bringing that past, those events, into the present. And in a sense, injecting her present reality back into that moment in her memory. So what we choose to keep, to treasure in our hearts, especially as we reflect and ponder these moments, these experiences and memories continue to shape who we are, who we become. Mary was without sin, yes, but her holiness came also from her continual reconnection on the things that God had done in her life. And when we speak of memory in this way, we can metaphorically but accurately call memory the mother of our future selves. So I ask you again to consider, what do you keep? What do you treasure and ponder in your hearts? If you can answer that question, you can tell yourself something about who you will become. It's for this reason that Jesus warns us about storing up earthly treasures and gives us that saying, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so if now we realize that perhaps we have a habit of keeping, treasuring, and pondering the wrong sorts of things, this should alarm us, convict us, and inspire an appropriate fear or concern that hanging on to these things puts us in a bad direction. But the good news is we don't have to keep holding on to the wrong things. The readings, Mary's example, our very liturgical pattern of life in the church lays out a path of hope, of treasuring the right things. Starting with the liturgy, we can talk about the fact that today is the 8th day, the octave day of Christmas. That's why I keep saying Merry Christmas. And in the eyes of the church, some events are so significant that one day is not enough. So we duplicate it. We celebrate the same thing for 8 days straight. Today is not just part of the Christmas season that goes till January 12th this year. No, today is, in a sense, still Christmas Day, only spread over the 8th, the octave. So it's fitting that we exercise this kind of treasuring and pondering and real memory with Mary as our example, our guide, our companion. And this logic of memory that shapes us now is the reason that the church offers this annual cycle of feasts and celebrations. When we follow the church's pattern of life, of feasting and fasting, of reflecting and learning, we're training ourselves to treasure the right things, to to become more fully ourselves in the best way. The readings for today also capitalize on this memory. Fitting that Mary, the Mother of God, is celebrated with a gospel that points us to the mothering power of memory. And our second reading gives us a pithy and memorable way of remembering what God has done for us. God sent his Son, born of a woman, under the law, to ransom those under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons. Paul is setting up a poetic structure with that duplication. He talks about woman, law, woman. There's a poetry to what he's writing, and he does this often. St. Paul knows the power of memory and prayer. It's why Scripture both contains poetry and inspires it, hymns as well. Memorizing psalms and poems and hymns, learning them by heart, so to speak, is a crucial way to make it part of us. It's why we should be careful not to become attached to hymns and songs that distort the truth, because they have a way of sneaking falsehood into our identity. Scripture as a whole is this place of memory, of experiences to treasure and ponder, and so form our future selves. A habit, a lifestyle of keeping and reflecting on Scripture is essential for maturity in the faith, for growing into the peaceful and joyful way of life we see in the saints. Our memories are often faulty, so we need all the more to go again and again to the communal memory of Scripture, so that our recollection of Jesus Christ is accurate and integrated more deeply into who we are. And of course, there's Mary herself. The weekend before Christmas, if you heard my homily, I suggested you make Mary a part of your New Year's resolution. I repeat that now. Mary, the perfect disciple, the exemplar of the church, the queen of heaven, the mother of God. She is not an accessory to our Catholic faith. She is as integral to our faith as our memory is to identity. Jesus is the one we remember and treasure and love, but Mary is very much part of the way we remember him. Just as she is the way he came to us in the first place. This is the genius of the Rosary and other Marian devotions, that it allows us to be with Mary as she keeps and reflects on the events of salvation. It's not a matter of completing a certain number of prayers, but of allowing that structure to give us a safe place to keep the things we treasure. A house is structured, and a womb might seem confining, but they make life possible. So too do the formulas of prayer, the structure of the liturgy, the methodology of rosary and devotion give us a structured, safe place to keep faith alive. For this new year, I urge you to keep these three things. Right? First, to really learn and follow the church's liturgical cycles. Let our institutional memory guide your personal memory. Second, read Scripture often. Try to memorize key verses and passages so they become part of you. Third, pray the Rosary. Pray it more than you currently do, even just a little bit. Pray it alone. Pray it with others. Pray it badly. Pray it as well as you can. Pray it in bite-sized pieces throughout the day. Pray it with your kids while they make a mess. Why? So that your mother can help you remember who God is, who your Father is, and in turn, who you really are.